Welcome to the Deep Dive. So glad you're joining us today.
Yeah, good to be here.
We're picking up the conversation after Sunday at Agape Community Church, really digging into Pastor Florin's message.
That Genesis series, right? Stories of redemption, love, and the unexpected.
Exactly. We're focusing on Genesis 35 today, that pivotal moment for Jacob.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission, really, is to unpack the biggest insights from the sermon, especially how this, ancient story speaks to stuff young people face now.
Stuff like finding a secure identity.
Yeah.
Dealing with, real-life struggles.
Yeah, precisely. And looking at it all through this lens of being an apprentice under Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually look like day to day?
Right. Pastor Florin really emphasized that the Christian life isn't supposed to be neat and tidy. It's meant to be, real.
Totally.
And Genesis is just perfect for showing that, isn't it? All the raw reality.
For sure.
Genesis 35.120, Jacob's return to Bethel. It's a place with history for him.
Right, where God first appeared to him when he was running from Esau.
Exactly. And this chapter, it really shows the ups and downs, the highs and lows of walking with God. That's the real-life journey we want to explore for you, the listener.
Okay, let's do it. Let's follow Jacob's path.
Mm-hmm.
The call to obey, God's blessing, and then, that unexpected, painful turn.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll keep tying it back to this idea of apprenticeship. Following Jesus is active, it's practice.
It's hands-on. Let's get into it.
So, first theme, obedience and purification. Mm-hmm. Practical steps, right?
Right.
It starts with God speaking directly to Jacob.
Yeah.
Genesis 35, verse 1. Go up to Bethel and settle there. Build an altar. Remember me, the God who met you when you were fleeing.
Yeah, a very clear instruction. And Bethel, like you said, is significant, a place of a past encounter.
So what's Jacob's first move, his immediate reaction?
He doesn't wait. He turns right to his whole household, everyone with him.
Okay.
And he says, basically, get rid of the foreign gods you have with you. Purify yourselves. Change your clothes. Then we go up to Bethel.
Wow. So step one is cleaning house, spiritually speaking.
Absolutely. It's intentional purification, obedience. And these foreign gods, Pastor Florin talked about this, it wasn't just little statues.
Right. It's broader than that.
Yeah, it's anything they were giving ultimate loyalty to besides God, their trust, their focus.
Things that took God's place.
Exactly. And purify yourselves, change your clothes. It's about setting themselves apart, getting rid of anything standing in the way of complete devotion, making themselves ready ritually and spiritually.
And it's so tangible, isn't it? Not just a thought. The text says they gave him the idols, the rings in their ears, and he buried them.
He buried them under an oak tree at Shechem, a physical act of surrender.
It makes you think. And the result? God's protection follows. The terror of God fell on the towns. No one messed with them.
Protection followed obedience. It shows that apprenticeship isn't just listening, it's doing.
So connecting that to today, for you listening, thinking about being an apprentice of Jesus, what are those foreign gods now? What distractions might need burying?
That's the key question, isn't it? Because they look different today. For young people, maybe it's the endless scroll, that comparison trap on social media.
Oh, definitely.
Or, chasing validation likes, grades, popularity, things that promise fulfillment but don't deliver.
Or just consumerism, the next big thing that's supposed to make you happy.
Right. All these things can subtly demand our main allegiance, pull our focus from God. Burying them means setting boundaries, maybe stepping away from some things, intentionally making space for God.
And Jacob acted. Pastor Florin really stressed that. It wasn't just an idea.
Mm-hmm.
As apprentices, our growth comes through action, applying it. Maybe it is setting screen time limits or unfollowing certain accounts.
It's that practical component, making choices based on who you're following.
Okay, so Jacob obeys,
Mm-hmm.
he purifies.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next is huge. God shows up again.
He does, and he reaffirms the covenant, the promise, and gives Jacob this new identity.
Verse 10, your name is Jacob, but you will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. That's massive. What's the significance there?
Pastor Florin unpacked this really well. Jacob, it means heel grabber, basically. Deceiver, schemer.
Yeah.
Reflects his past, right?
This is history.
But Israel, that's completely different. It means something like God perseveres, or he wrestles with God, even a man seeing God.
Wow.
It's not just a nickname. It's a fundamental shift in who he is. God defined.
A new core identity.
Exactly. And with it comes this amazing blessing, a huge legacy, nations, kings, and the land promised to Abraham and Isaac, identity and destiny given by God.
What a truly glorious blessing. It really makes you think. Pastor Florin connected this to us. He said, we have a new identity in Christ. children of the Most High God.
Yes.
So for you listening, especially if you're young and constantly told who you should be, how does grabbing hold of that identity child of God actually change things day to day? It sounds like an anchor.
It is the ultimate anchor. Think about it. If your worth isn't tied to your performance, your followers, your status,
Right.
if it's rooted in being deeply loved and valued by God himself,
Yeah.
that changes everything.
How so, practically?
Well, it frees you up. You can take risks, be creative, even fail without your whole sense of self collapsing.
Because your core value isn't on the line.
Exactly. You know you're loved. That secure base lets you navigate insecurity, comparison, all that stuff that bombards us. You can be authentically you because your true self is found in him. That's vital for an apprentice, knowing who you are in relation to the master.
Finding your true north in who God says you are. Okay, but here's where the story takes a turn. And it's challenging. It feels countercultural to how we often think blessing works.
Right. You'd expect smooth sailing after all that obedience and blessing.
Totally. But no, Jacob leaves Bethel and suddenly tragedy strikes. While they were still some distance from Ephrath, Rachel began to give birth and had great difficulty.
Yeah, the text shifts fast. Pastor Florin pointed out the Bible's honesty here. It doesn't gloss over the pain. It might not detail Jacob's grief, but those words, great difficulty, Rachel's despair, naming her son Ben-Oni, son of my trouble. You feel the agony.
Oh, absolutely. It's heartbreaking, his beloved wife.
And yet Jacob, even in that moment, renames him Benjamin, son of my right hand. Strength, blessing maybe. He's seeing something beyond the immediate pain.
But still, Rachel dies. Right after Jacob's obedience, right after the new identity and blessing, the question Pastor Florin raised, the one we all ask, why? How could this happen now, God? I was doing everything right.
And that's where a critical truth comes in, a really hard one sometimes. God's blessing, his presence, his ultimate plan. It transcends our immediate circumstances. It doesn't mean bad things won't happen.
So blessing isn't the absence of pain.
Exactly. Pastor Florin put it so powerfully. In your hurt, you're still a child of God. In your despair, you matter to God. Even when darkness seems overwhelming, Jesus' resurrection means hope isn't lost. Death and sin don't have the final say.
So our identity, our legacy, our hope, those things remain secure even when life falls apart.
Yes. That's the core of apprenticeship, really. Learning to live with that secure hope, that unshakable identity, especially when things are incredibly hard. Trusting the master, even on the painful parts of the path.
That's huge. Because life does throw curveballs. Pain comes. It's not a sign you failed or God's abandoned you.
Right. It's part of the real life journey, even for those following closely. The anchor is who you are in him, not what is happening to you.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We've seen Jacob's obedience, his new God-given identity, and the hard reality of pain even amidst blessing. So for you listening, wanting to be an apprentice of Jesus, what's the takeaway? How to practice this?
Well, the sermon really hammered this home. Our identity in Christ is secure. Our legacy is secure. Our eternal home is secure. These are promises.
Okay.
The apprenticeship part is living like those things are true every day. It's not just knowing it up here.
In your head.
Right. It's the practice, like Jacob physically burying those idols. We actively choose to live from our identity as God's children.
So letting that truth shape how we respond to things.
Exactly. How we face difficulties, the choices we make. Remembering, like Pastor Florin said, in your hurt, you're still God's child. In despair, you matter. When darkness looms, Jesus brings hope. It's actively recalling and living out those truths.
And it's a daily thing, right? Not a one-off.
Absolutely. Waking up, remembering who you are, choosing to bury the things that pull you away, trusting God even when it's tough, letting that identity redefine your reality.
Moving from just knowing to walking in it, like a true apprentice.
Precisely. It's not always easy, this path. Jacob's story makes that clear. But it's purposeful. It's anchored.
Wow. Such a powerful deep dive today, really. Jacob's story, through Pastor Florin's lens, just reminds us that our identity in Christ, God's promises, they hold firm, even when life gets messy and painful. And being an apprentice means living that out practically.
Yeah, putting it into practice.
So here's a final thought for you to maybe mull over this week. Just reflect. What foreign gods, what distractions might you need to intentionally bury to step more fully into your identity as a child of God?
Good question.
And then, how could remembering that identity, that deep, secure identity, help you navigate maybe a great difficulty or a moment of despair you're facing right now?
Thinking about how that truth anchors you.
Exactly. Well, if this conversation was helpful for you, please share it with a friend. Maybe someone else needs to hear this too.
Yeah, definitely.
And hey, if you need prayer for anything, big or small, you can submit a request online at our website, agapechurch.life. We have a prayer team ready to pray specifically for you.
That's agapechurch.life.
Yep. And check out our YouTube channel and the website too for more resources, more deep dives like this one.
Lots more content there.
Thanks so much for joining us for this conversation today.